Welcome back to the weekend wrap. No production, just my thoughts. As always, please like and subscribe. Share with a friend, a colleague, a relative, an associate, an enemy, any and all in between. It's appreciated. I was gonna do basis picks this week, but truth be told, the fights that were on, apart from one which I did actually want to speak about, I kind of didn't really have the interest, the desire to do them. I should have really done it from Wednesday though for the Glanton and Marcus Brown fight. That was something I was kind of keen on. So I kind of addressed that, but we're going to do this weekend wrap a little differently. Usually you guys know I like to go through the chronological order of the fight cards and speak about how people did and all of that good stuff. I saw the fights in snippet form. I haven't watched all of them. Like for instance, like I said, the chaos, what is it called, chaos in the ring card in Lagos, Nigeria. I've seen bits and pieces. I watched the main event, and then I went back and watched the Dan Aziz fight, you know, him being one of my boys from Blue Borough. But I know there was other fights on there. What's his name, Odiasi was on there. I know, what's his name? Is it Agora? Ahorga. No, that's it. Ahorga was also on the card. So I haven't seen all of them, but you know, we'll kind of talk about that. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to speak more about kind of what's gone on throughout the week as a whole, because some fairly relevant information has kind of come out, which is, you know, I guess worth the definitely worth the chat. So with that being said, let's kind of kick it off. So look, let's talk very briefly about kind of what happened with the cards. Look, Brandon Glanton beat Marcus Brown, who was, they say it was a 6th round TKO, but technically the bell did sound for the 7th round and he stayed on his stall and the team sort of pulled him out. So it should have actually been a 7th round TKO. But yeah, he was the better boxer in there. He was catching Brandon Glanton with some pretty good shots overall, but Brandon Glanton just sort of stayed on the chest, realized that Marcus Brown couldn't really hurt him apart from when he hit him low a couple of occasions. Stayed on his chest, just carried on working and just wearing him out, and ultimately I guess broke his spirit, or the team just felt it's only going one way, we need to get you out of it. However, they decided that. Dan Aziz got a little, well, he got a stoppage. I think it was in the 7th round, the 7th or the 8th round. Dan Aziz got a nice little stoppage, so he's kind of, you know, back on job. Let's see how we can use this as a springboard. Hopefully, with BOXXER being on the BBC, I know he won't be on the 25th of October card, but maybe he can get on the next card that they've got, and just sort of continue that momentum. Outside of that, so we had Emma Cozen and Cecelia Brækhus. I think they was called the final bell because Cecelia Brækhus said win, lose or draw, she was going to retire off this fight. It was up 154 pounds. It was for the WBC and WBO super welterweight championships in the women's division. Emma Cozen was the unified champ, but hadn't been in the ring for almost 2 years. Or I think it was technically 2 years by the time that fight started. Whereas Cecelia hadn't been in the ring, I believe, though, about 13 months. So both ladies had a lot of inactivity and I guess ring roster shape off. But clearly, Cecelia, who was the much older woman, I believe 18 years older, she's 44, and I think Emma Cozen's 26. But that age didn't really mean much, but the experience definitely did. I haven't been able to watch the fight because I thought it would be on the zone. It ended up not being broadcast on any channel that I was aware of. But she got a unanimous decision, 98, 92, 97, 93, and 96, 94. So congratulations to Cecelia Brækhus. If she does officially end her career, she's ended her career as a 2-weight world champion, the longest reigning undisputed champion in the women's division period, the most title defenses of any woman in history. She almost equaled the Larry Holmes record of 25 title defenses, but on her 25th one, I think a lot of people believe that she was robbed of the victory of that one. But yeah, look, 24 defenses, most in the women's code. Like I said, longest reigning undisputed, I also believe, and definitely she was the longest reigning champion in a single run. So yeah, she got the, she's the one that got boxing unbanned from Norway, just due to her celebrity over there and her abilities to fight. I haven't, like I said, I haven't been able to see the fight. I really wish I could. I've always been a big supporter of Cecelia Brækhus. She's messaged me before on the old X, retweeted a few things that I put out regarding her, and I think Terry Harper a little while ago. I would have loved to get her on the channel, although I don't know if she'll be doing any further interviews and stuff like that now that she is potentially retired. But whatever happens, enjoy the retirement. It's well deserved, well earned, and she is one of the best, I will say, undoubtedly, without argument, a top 5 all-time female in the sport of boxing. I don't really think anyone could argue that, but I'm sure someone will try. You had Hutchinson against Mark Jeffers. I did predict that Hutchinson would win. I think I said the 8th round TKO, and I think he ended up winning in the 8th round, something like that, on my predictions league. So got that one right. He looked like he got hit more than I was expecting him to get hit, to be honest, but he just showed he was a level above Mark Jeffers, so can't really say too much more other than that. Then there was other fights on the card. I really couldn't have cared less, if I'm honest, about that card in Scotland, and that's not to be disrespectful to anyone. Obviously, from those areas, I'm sure there was some pretty good fighters and stuff on there, but I just had no interest. But Nathaniel Collins and Cristobal Lorente, they fought to a draw. It was a split decision draw. I didn't watch I watched the fight, but I didn't watch it in its entirety, like studying it. So to say whether or not that was the right result, I can't. But it did look like a fight that was kind of, did ebb and flow, go back and forth. So if they want to run it back, cool. No problems with that. No problems with that at all. Right. But let's get into some of the stuff that's happened during the week. So we've seen that BOXXER, who obviously have had a little bit of a tough time at the moment, especially with the the supposed only 4 dates a year that they have with the BBC, and we believe their budget for each fight card is like £500,000, which, if true, will be very, very difficult for them to put on like quality fight cards, like from top to bottom. You might be able to get a decent main event, but the undercard will generally be trash if you can't pay both the your fighters and then their opponents anything substantial. Or you might get like a card from top to bottom that's not bad, but no stars. However, it looks like that's now been adjusted, because Turki Al Sheikh has, in fact, I don't know if he announced or read up, but he now has a sponsorship with BOXXER. The one thing I'm not sure about is how that actually translates to the BBC, like because obviously BBC is taxpayers' money and they can't run adverts. So the sponsorship, what will it be? Will it be to be able to do advertising within the broadcast itself, like maybe picture in picture or stuff like that? Because again, BBC, you can't, the only thing that they're allowed to advertise on the BBC is other BBC programming, because it's taxpayers. They can't have adverts like ITV, Channel 4, Channel 5, etc. So it would be interesting to see how that is. Or are they just like almost a silent partner that is just giving additional money to each show. Seeing as it's only 4 shows, maybe they see it's a bit of a weaker or smaller investment overall. And whereas, say, the BBC give them 500,000, they give them another 300,000 per show. So over the course of the year, we're talking about just 1.2 million or something like that, or the course of their calendar year for the 4 shows. Now, to be totally honest, that's a drop in the that's like a teardrop to the Saudis. So maybe it's something like that which just allows them to be able to put on slightly better cards, and then on the ring canvases and stuff, you can have like the Riyadh season or the ring, or just the other sponsors, the other promoters, or etc. on there. I don't know. It could be more than that. It could be support in terms of the actual staff infrastructure, like actually having additional people to help run the shows and whatnot. I don't really know how it's gonna work at this point in time, but Ben Shalom, credit to him, has been given an additional lifeline. It's funny. I saw what was it? It was Travis on the Undefeated podcast, where he basically said that Ben Shalom is just like that cat that you always see outside, and you don't never see him live nowhere. You never see him go to any house, but he always seems to. He never looks like he ain't been fed. And that kind of does seem a bit like Ben Shalom at the moment. Is like he doesn't really been embraced by anyone. He doesn't necessarily have his own home that people can point to, but somehow he's managing to stay alive. And October Red also said something very similar, like Ben is not a punk. He doesn't go down without a fight, and so far he's fighting the good fight with Turkey's help and Turkey's money behind him. So I've got no I got nothing but praise to say to him for that. But they got to work out something additional to the 4 fights thing. I know that probably the majority of his fighters are going to end up getting loaned out as B-sides or whatnot to Riyadh and ring cards like in the future. But you need more than the 4 dates if you want to build a sustainable business. But look, we'll wait and see kind of how that one plays out. But then, speaking of such scenarios, you've got Eddie Hearn, who has also had I think they've sold off a portion of Matchroom to the Saudis, like a small percentage, but the Riyadh season will now also be involved in Matchroom Sport. So I think they're going between the darts, the snooker, and the boxing, and there might even be another thing. They might have something to do with maybe the fishing as well. I didn't quite check the entire thing, but I know that they're putting their weight behind some additional events and promotions that Matchroom has under the banner, because I guess they see the money that those generate, especially the darts. Riyadh season have been very keen to get into that, and I think that it just means that obviously they will be pushing more money sort of behind those additional events, those additional sports, having more sort of a marketing focus, maybe adding additional eyes onto each individual platform. I'm not 100% sure how obviously it will work, but if it's anything similar to what they've been doing with the actual boxing, then yeah, they're just going to be kind of pumping more money into it, maybe getting it onto the sort of onto the forefront of maybe the Zone or Sky. I know that the darts I think are still with Sky Sports and stuff. So yeah, look, that in itself is pretty good work from them ultimately. And again, Turkey just kind of putting his hands into everything that we're seeing at the moment. So it will be interesting to see sort of how that one plays out. Obviously, you got Dana White with Zuffa Boxing. They've officially announced that they will have their own Zuffa belt. So I guess very similar to UFC, and the only belt currently in circulation that they will recognize will be the Ring Magazine belt. So I guess their people, anyone that is signed up to Zuffa, and I guess if the UBO gets created and gets allowed, if you get the Muhammad Ali alterations that they want to make to it, I'm assuming that the way that I assume it's going to work is obviously they have kind of almost like a league, right? And then once you get someone that gets to the top of that league, they get the Zuffa belt. Now they're gonna have only, I think, the first original 8 weight categories. So you get the belt, then I would assume that maybe you got to defend it a couple times, like 2-3 times. Once you've defended it on those amount of occasions, then you graduate to fighting on one of Turkey's shows against another opponent where the ring belt is on the line. Now, if that opponent, I'm assuming, has the other sanctioning belts, then the Zuffa boxer can't win those belts, but will possibly be able to win the Ring Magazine belt. That's how I would assume it to be. But here's the problem, and this is something that I've recently thought of, and I need to know how this will work. Obviously, the ring belts themselves are, they'll be recognized by people outside of the Zuffa promotion. So in order for you to get one of them, you may have to beat someone that's outside. But for most people to get a ring belt, they have to be the consensus #1, which usually you get by becoming undisputed or unified or beating the lineal champion in the division. If a Zuffa boxer goes to fight for the Ring Magazine belt, but the Ring Magazine belt holder has multiple other belts, the sanctioning bodies, so the WBC, WBO, IBF, and WBA, have to agree that that person is allowed to fight for their belt. If they don't agree that their belt will be on the line, there is a strong potential that they could then end up stripping their belts from the person that's about to fight the Zuffa fight. Now, obviously, Turkey may be able to have enough money to say, don't worry about that, it's not a problem, we'll pay you compensation. But what if that person doesn't want to drop the other belts or have the other belt stripped from them? If the Zuffa guy isn't within the rankings of the other belts, there's no reason or there's no mandate or edicts that the champion from outside of Zuffa has to face them. So it could end up being a situation where the person that is Zuffa-fied, if we're going to call it that, ends up almost getting snookered out of the game totally. Maybe the only way being once they get to a certain point and they win that Zuffa belt for say, and they defend it maybe 3 times and they get elevated, then ultimately they get stripped of that belt and they leave the promotion, and then end up getting graduating to Turkey shows, and then Turkey gets them ranked within one of the other governing bodies to be able to use the Ring Magazine belt. But in that case, it still then doesn't help the Zuffa boxers, because they won't be a part of Zuffa when they're when the bouts are happening. So it's a bit confusing to see how they will make that work, unless they're ultimately going to just have the Ring Magazine belts not exclusive to Zuffa only boxers, which would be a bit problematic, and I don't see how it would actually work, considering that multiple fighters from outside of the Zuffa camp currently hold Ring Magazine belts. Alexander Usyk comes to mind, Terence Crawford comes to mind, although technically, because he's at 168, that wouldn't be one of the weight classes that they would acknowledge. Is there a Ring Magazine? I don't think there's a ring at 160. Obviously, you've got Dmitry Bivol, who's the ring at 175. Trying to think, what other ones have we got? You had Jared Ennis, who was ring at 147. I guess he'd have to relinquish that now that he's moved up to 154, so maybe that one's vacant and up for grabs. The lightweight one, no one's got it yet, but I guess Shakur Stevenson would be the next in line. So Look, it'd be interesting to find out exactly how it's gonna work. I mean, Inoue wouldn't his belt wouldn't be eligible because he's a super bantamweight, and obviously that's not one of the original eight weight classes. So I would be very interested to kind of see how it plays out and how it works. But yeah, it's very interesting, but also seeming a little bit problematic. So I guess I kind of got to wait and see just really how that one's unfolding. Derek Chisora is supposed to be back on the 13th of December. No news on the opponent yet, but apparently there's been some strong links and talks that it is Daniel Dubois that he will be facing. I've heard that Daniel's injured, so I don't know the validity to that, but hey, I mean, it's anything's possible. I've also seen Moses Atama supposedly it will be facing Michael Hunter on that card. If so, that is a very, very good fight, even though, Michael's a little bit older, not quite the guy he was, but I think he still would be very problematic for Moses Atalma. But that would be a really good move for Moses to kind of see, where he's at and to maybe get the rounds or to have to figure certain things out. Chisora and Dubois, if that one did happen, is interesting. You would expect Dubois to be way too young, fresh and strong and just bulldoze him with that big double jab that he likes to throw with the right hand behind it. But Derek Chisora is a crafty and cunning and wily guy, so there's nothing to say that he maybe wouldn't just be able to almost old man Dubois in there a little bit, take his best shots early on, and like just try to wear him down and break his heart and break his spirit down the back stretch of the fight. Very interesting. I guess you'll have to wait and see. Also, according to Eddie Hearn, even though it wasn't something that they planned, there is a very strong possibility that we could see Anthony Joshua at the end of this year. So December time, even though they were kind of planning for, I think, February, March of next year initially. But I wonder if that could be a part of the potential December 13th card that he's trying to put on the West Coast in America. Maybe just get Joshua a run out in time for maybe a big fight that's supposed to take place in March at the end of the Riyadh season cards that they usually have at the end of March. That'd be interesting to find out. Or maybe there's another big card that is being planned for, Ring Magazine Riyadh season in December that they want to get them on, which I'm not really sure about because I'm pretty sure that they've got that Night of the Samurai event taking place in December in Riyadh season with all of the smaller Japanese fighters. So, I mean, I highly doubt he'd be on that card, but stranger things have happened. Who knows? Obviously, I know Eddie Hearn has alluded to the fact that he could potentially try to combat Dana White in the MMA game on the interview. I think it was his seconds out that I saw earlier on today. I think he was saying it in jest, but you never know. I know that him and Dana have a lot of respect for each other, but Eddie's ultimately saying, like, if you believe that you will come into boxing and take things over, like, that's not going to be the case. We can be friends, but we will be rivals and I will beat you, etc., etc. So there's been quite a few things going on. Tim Bradley has been really sort of advocating for Tank Davis over the last couple months, to be honest. I don't really know what the angle is and where it's come from, but I guess this is prerogative. Maybe he's just trying to get some clicks to his channel. Maybe he's just gone a bit loopy, or maybe he's trying to help someone's mental get back right. If you guys know what I mean, I'm not really sure. There's been so many other things. I mean, I didn't speak about it before, but last week, Terence Crawford getting stopped by police on his birthday after just having a big parade for him in the city of Omaha. Yeah, I mean, look, without getting too deep into that one and too far into it, it's crazy. Like literally the entire town of Omaha, the entire city was there to celebrate this guy that just achieved greatness and has always repped the city strong in front of the mayor. Yet a police officer who no doubt would have to know who Terence Crawford is, still saw fit to stop his car. Which, okay, maybe you stop the car, but then you see who's inside it. Oh, okay, T, okay, my bad, apologies. Like, on your way, birthday boy. Especially if you're saying it was reckless driving, there's only two things you could think of: possible speeding, driving while under the influence, or driving while intoxicated, I think they call it. Clearly it was none of those. So if we're saying possibly speeding, or what, maybe lane changed without indicating or something like that, because I know that they'll pull you over for shit like that in America. They don't do it anywhere else in the world, but they will do it in America. They pull you over for jaywalking. For those of you who don't know what that means, it means not walking at the traffic lights, like crossing the road at any opportunity that you've got. And I've done that a couple of times over there, because it's just a natural thing to do. But yeah, they're like, no, no, no. I don't think I've ever seen any police while I've been doing it. But you know, it's not something you want to play with. But yeah, this officer clearly must have seen that Terence Crawford was in the car, or seen that it was Terence Crawford, yet still decided to pull a gun on him and ask him to, step out of the vehicle. Even if like, again, okay, I understand possible procedures and all that kind of stuff, but it seems as if the procedures was wrong on this, and I'm in something at the moment where I'm dealing with procedures, so I'm paying very close and keen attention to that. But it's like he's too famous to shoot at the police right now, kind of thing. You know what I mean? So really, there's no reason to have your gun drawn on him. And just imagine if for some reason this police officer actually like did open fire through maybe being scared or reactionary or whatever, and it's like you literally just shot, potentially killed or injured this guy that the city just had a parade for, and destroyed his career or destroyed his family. I would look, I ain't gonna lie to you, as as well loved as Terence Crawford is in Omaha right now, I don't think anywhere would be safe for that police officer. I don't think he would have. I don't even think he'd have the protection of the rest of his force on his side. He might have to end up in witness protection or relocation to like a whole nother city, state, maybe even country. It could be that deep. But I know that the mayor personally apologized to Terence Crawford regarding this and has launched an internal investigation. He wants to see all of the dash cam footage. He wants to see the police cam footage, and he's like, oh, well, not him specifically, but within the investigation, he wants all of it there. He doesn't want anything to be chopped and changed and edited. Like, he wants a comprehensive report of how this was allowed to happen. So hopefully Terence and the team get justice on that. Yeah, again, they said, I think they also said something about speeding, but the officer admitted that they didn't have radar to be able to confirm that speeding occurred. So procedurally, there's some problems there. But the main thing, and again, this is old news, but I'm just stating it. The main thing is that Terence Crawford was not harmed in that situation, and everyone left with their health intact, because anything other than that is just kind of unthinkable at this moment in time. Yeah, look, I think that's pretty much everything that I've not spoken about over the week. There will be some casual streams and some other bits and pieces coming out this week, obviously leading up to Dave Allen and Arsenal Vet Makhmadov. We'll definitely be doing some stuff there. But I'm going to leave this one here for now. And yeah, just look, I know there hasn't been a huge amount of stuff this week. There was supposed to be, but again, it was just one of those weeks where not a lot was happening, and I had some other stuff going on which I had to really knuckle down and keep my focus on. But hopefully that stuff is starting to peter out and I can look past all of that and yeah, come back to a bit more just a bit more of a consistent basis for you guys. But there will be a lot more content this week that you can be assured of, and next week, and especially leading up to the 25th. I don't know if we're going to do watch alongs yet, but I'm going to let you guys in a little secret. I'm leaning very heavily towards not purchasing Parker and Wardley as much as I want to see the fight, but the undercard is it's not good. It's really not good, and I don't know if I can justify the £25, especially when I've got a free option on BBC. Yeah, it may be an inferior fight in practice, but it's free. It's like I got some financial commitments coming up, which may, mean that I have to start being a lot more sensible with where my money goes. And yeah, that one just may not get the justification. But we'll wait and see down the line. I could always change my mind. But yeah, look, thank you very much for watching. As I said, don't forget to like, subscribe and share and hit that hype button if it does anything whatsoever. There will be more stuff coming up this week. I will catch you on the next one. But until then, peace.